Hello and welcome back. So in the previous video, we deployed Harbor in an internet connected environment. This time around, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be deploying Harbor in an Airgapped environment. So my lab is made up of two networks, an internet connected network as well as an Airgapped network. This way I can do demos and labs on different environments. So let's dive straight into it. So first we create a virtual machine, give it a name, select the cluster that I want to deploy on. It's management components, so I'll deploy the management cluster. 8 CPUs and 16 gigs of RAM. I will use the Ubuntu 24.04 image that we downloaded, 100 gigs for the operating system, and I'll attach it to the Airgapped subnet. So we can do a couple of ping tests later on to showcase that it's really an Airgapped environment. And I'll give it a static IP address. UEFI boot, and I'll use Cloud Init for my guest customization. So the VM is now created. We can head over into volume groups, create a new volume group, the cluster that I want it to be deployed on, and I'll attach 6 500 GB drives. So we've got 6 500 GB drives right now, and I will select it for virtual machine connection, which is a direct attached volume group, and choose the AG registry and select load balance volume groups. Then next and create. So once that is done, we can power on the virtual machine and we can launch a console while we wait for it to get booted. So the VM has successfully booted. What we can do is we can log into the VM and make some configurations. So first thing what I'll be doing is I'll be changing the host name. Then we can run a couple of commands to initialize the volume groups. So I've got all the commands listed over here. And this is the same regardless whether it's an air-gapped or internet connected environment. So we can just go ahead and copy the commands. Sets the SCSI timeout to 60 seconds. Ensure that we've got multipath enabled and installed. Then let's verify that we've got 6 drives. Great. Then we need to make sure that the drives are clean and it's meeting the drive letters. So it's B to G, that's good. So 500 gigs looks good. Then we'll create the physical volumes. Create the volume group. And then we'll configure the logical volume with stripes across the 6 drives. So we can validate. 2.9 terabytes, okay. Striped with 6 stripes, very nice. Then we can create the file system. Create a mount point. And create a FSTab entry to mount the logical volume into /data. Then we can mount A. It's asking us to reload the daemon. We can do that as well. Then we can check that we have got the mounts. Okay, so now that we have got the virtual machine prepared, the next step would be to install Harbor on an air-gapped environment. So in the guide, I have got 2 sections. One is to install Harbor in an internet connected environment. The other one at the bottom, it's installing Harbor in an air-gapped environment. So how are we going to mirror the Docker binaries as well as the Harbor binaries from an air-gapped environment, right? So it really looks like that. We have got 2 environments, and it's very common in customer setups that they will have 2 environments, right? They have got an internet connected environment with a jump host, a virtual machine, or a laptop that has got internet access, as well as an air-gapped environment. Then that is where they run all of their actual workloads, right? So from the jump host, what they'll do is that they will go over into the public internet to download the necessary Docker binaries as well as the Harbor binaries. Then perform a scan. And once everything is validated to be malware or virus free, then transfer it into a secure portable media. Then they'll take the secure portable media and bring it into the Airgapped environment, perform a scan again, and transfer it into the jump host that they're going to be working on. So once that is done, then what they can do is to load the binaries, the Docker binaries, as well as the Harbor binaries into the jump host before copying it into the VM. Now, there are multiple ways that we can do this secure transfer, right? We can do it via a secure portable media, or it could be a flash card, it could be a USB drive with encryption or fingerprint access. It could be a one-way diode, it could be floppy drives or DVD drives, whatever is suitable for the customer. For me, because my two environments, the air-gapped environment is not able to access the public internet. However, it can access the internet connected environment, and my internet connected environment can directly access the air-gapped environment. So what I'll do is I'll just download everything in the internet connected environment and perform an SCP over into my air-gapped jump host. Okay, the concepts are the same. It's just how do we want to execute the transfer of data and the transport. So I've prepared a little script over here, and this script helps us to essentially get the GPG keys for Docker, and then it will make a directory called offline installers and download all the necessary binaries like containerd, docker ce, docker compose into that offline installers directory. Then we will also download the latest Harbor release and then compress it for efficient file transfer. This will be done all on my internet connected jump host. After which, I will be transferring the offline installer.targz file from the internet connected jump host over into the airgapped jump host. Then from the airgapped jump host, I'll be transferring it into my airgapped registry to try and mimic what customers typically do. So over in my terminal, we can open a new session and I'll SSH into my internet connected jump host. So it's 100.3. Once I SSH into it, I can ping and I see that I have internet access. Great. So I will head over to my browser and copy all of these commands, and it will automatically download the Docker binaries as well as the Harbor installation files. So once that process is done, we now have a single offline installers tarball that allows us to very easily transfer this offline installer tarball over into my airgapped jump host. So if I were to SSH into my airgapped jump host, so the airgapped jump host is 104.3. And if I try to ping 8.8.8.8, I don't get a response. I don't get a response for both 8.8 and 1.1.1. This proves that it's actually in an airgapped environment. It doesn't have internet access. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to SCP the offline installers tarball over into the airgapped jump host. And once the transfer is complete, I see that the offline installers file is available in my airgapped jump host. So what I'll then do is I will copy this offline installers tarball over into the Harbor registry. So the Harbor registry is 104.6. Right, so we can see it's a 104.6. It's in the same airgapped subnet. So if I ping 8.8.8.8, don't get a response. If I ping 1.1.1, we don't get a response. I'll just SCP the offline installers over into Harbor, the Harbor VM. So it's in my /home/ubuntu. So I need to copy that into my root directory. Then I can decompress this offline installers tarball. So all the steps are actually available here. So now everything is decompressed into the offline installers. I can cd into the offline installers and execute the command to install everything. So if we take a look at the directory of the offline installers, there is all the Debian files, .deb files to install Docker, as well as the Harbor offline installers. So now that this is done, what we're going to do is we're going to make a new directory called /Harbor. This is going to host the Harbor binaries. Then I'm going to move the offline Harbor installer to /Harbor. Then once that is done, I'll change directories over into Harbor itself. Take a look at what's inside. Okay, I see the offline installer. Then this is where I'm going to make some configuration changes, right? So I have all of these environment variables that I need to fill up. Now, one important thing is that we need to ensure that we have the certificates already. So for those who do not have certificates yet, I have another video that I outline creating the certificates. You can go ahead and take a look at that. It should be up on screen right now. So I have it in my internet connected jump host. It's called certificates. So what I'll do is I'll just copy over the certificates from my jump host over into the registry. We take a look at the jump host right now. I need to take a look at what's in the home Ubuntu folder, and we see the certificates directory over there. I'll just move that directory over into the Harbor directory. Then the next step will be for me to set the environment variables. So my domain name is still wskn.local, even though it's for my Airgapped. So I try to maintain the same domain name in both environments. The registry FQDN is going to be slightly different. It's a AG-registry, so that we can identify it's actually Airgapped. The certificates will be in /harbor certificates, and the same for the key and the CHA. So we can validate by echo $, and if we cat, we see the certificates. So that works. So the next step would be to decompress the tarball, the installer tarball, and then cd into the Harbor directory and load the Harbor image. So now that the Harbor images has been uploaded into Docker, you see all the images over here. The next step would be to copy the Harbor installation manifest. Then we can then create a couple of directories so that the local Harbor VM trusts the certificates that we have within our domain. So we just do all of these commands. And then this script allows us to automatically install the CA certificates. Okay, so once that is done, we need to restart the Docker engine so that it now has information of the new certificates. And the last step would be to use SED to replace some of the values within the harbor.yaml manifest file. So if we were to take a look at the harbor.yaml manifest file, we'll see that the host name is reg.mydomain.com, which is default. The certificate and private key, these are all the default installation values, right? So we do not want to use this. We want to use it based on our environment. So we can change all of this to replace what we have in the YAML manifest file. So we can VI again, and we see that it's all changed over into what we actually need. Okay. So once that is done, then the last step will be to /prepare and /install. Now that it's done, we need to test that it's actually working. So in my local operating system, I can vi sudo vi/etc/hosts. And I see that I have got an entry called ag-registry.wskn.local, and it's pointing to 10.168.104.6, and that is where our registry lies. So I can head over back to my browser, and I launch ag-registry.wskn.local, enter, and I see that Harbor is already installed. We have got the secure connection, and the certificates are exactly as to what I intended to use. I can log in with the default username and password, which I will change later on. So it's min and Harbor 12345. I click on login and I see that I am logged into Harbor. So that's really about it for installing Harbor in an Airgapped environment. I have also a bonus section whereby we can perform the same kind of tasks by mirroring some of the packages using apt-get download in the online jump host and copying that over into the Airgapped jump host so that you have got an easier life trying to install or prepare your jump host in an Airgapped environment. So that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.